Hey, so this is an article from Deadline. I look through articles where I can learn something. I think I see some interesting insight. And I just figured out how to make millions and millions, maybe even billions of dollars making movies, or if not make money, at least not ever lose money. This is coming from Deadline. It's written by a gentleman named Dino Ray Ramos. A new study finds Hollywood studios could lose money from movies that lack diversity. Now, this reminds me of Ray Fisher's fight with DC Films, because the way it's described, it's almost like this new kind of logic where it's like, well, you're a bad person or you're a good person. All right, so I come from a world where it's like, well, what's your basis for saying someone's a bad person? Well, you abused me. Like, all right, well, how did I abuse you? I don't really want to say. Why? Well, I don't know. Like, all right, well, let's talk about it for months then. That's Ray Fisher. This one is, if you want to not lose money, you use this study, and it's almost like a guarantee. Like right in the middle, you got Black Panther. It's $1 billion movie. That's a success. Okay. And then you've got another Pixar movies. The Pixar movies all make money. And then you have this other movie, and I guess it's got diversity, so they won't lose money. All right. The analysis comes from Dino Ray Ramos. Dino Ray Ramos joined Deadline in 2017 and writes about inclusion and diversity issues in the industry, genre, film, and TV, as well as pop culture and media. Based in Los Angeles, he covers events and awards shows such as the Oscars, Emmys, Comic-Con, and the TCA Press Tour. Additionally, he co-hosts the New Hollywood podcast with Deadline's Amanda Naduka, which champions people of color, women's of the LGBTQ, etc. community, and other underrepresented voices in film and television. Okay, so in terms of the financial analysis here, let's just look at his background a little further. A Texas native, Dino Ray worked as film and TV reporter for the Oakland Tribune, right? That's a newspaper. And San Francisco Chronicle before moving to Los Angeles, okay? But prior to Deadline, he was also a chief film critic. He was a film critic at the Tracking Board and has written for Vogue, Entertainment Tonight, Bustle, Paste Magazine, Queerty. That sounds good. And NBC Asian America. Okay, so he's got no business background. But let's look at his business analysis, because one thing I don't want to do if I make movies in the future is lose any money on them. So let's see what Dino says. It's been said before, but it's worth saying again. Diversity pays. But not in terms of checking boxes and tokenism. Well, I mean, it does. But in addition, I think Dino is saying, in a new report from UCLA-based Center for Scholars and Storytellers titled Beyond Checking a Box, a lack of authentically inclusive representation has cost at the box office. Now, the new trend towards inclusion, it reminds me of the Ray Fisher thing. It's like, do you mean including everyone, or do you mean only including certain kinds of people? Because otherwise, if it's only certain kinds of people that you're including, it's a new definition for the word inclusion. And I get really concerned about new definitions of words because they don't mean the same thing. So just say what you mean. But okay, let's see how it's cost at the box office. Because, all right, researchers found that bringing authentic diversity to film improves financial performance at the box office, while a lack of diversity can result in losses for studios. Now, I mean, what are they talking about? This is again, I bring up the Ray Fisher thing because for me, this is like, if you want to persuade me, you're going to have to throw out some facts and some very serious specifics and make them reasonable examples. Films like the Latino-fronted Pixar animated pick Coco, Marvel Studios' Black Panther, and Warner Brothers' Crazy Rich Asians prove that racially diverse casts... I didn't see Coco, but I think it was based in Mexico, and then there was an afterlife. And they were all the same, like they were from Mexico. They were Mexican people, which makes a lot of sense. Black Panther was not racially diverse. It just wasn't. And it really shouldn't be, because it took place in Africa. There's no purpose for Black Panther to have multiple races and things like that, because that's where, like, everybody was in Africa, so they were African, and they were based in Wakanda, and there are a lot of Wakanda citizens there, and that's what you would expect, but you can't say it's racially diverse. Crazy Rich Asians I didn't see. Based on the title, I'd have my questions to know if there were multiple diverse casts. It proved that racially diverse casts can bring highly profitable grosses at the box office. According to UCLA's Hollywood Diversity Report, produced by a group of UCLA researchers, including Darnell Hunt, Dean of the college's Division of Social Sciences. However, when it comes to writing and directing jobs, underrepresented voices still have quite a way to go. So I'm not seeing that. So Black Panther did well, and Black Panther, unfortunately, because Chadwick Boseman passed away at such a young age, there can't be a sequel with him in it, but there can be a sequel from the world of Black Panther. So of course they're going to do that. It was successful. I don't know what that proves, though. Just that of course it doesn't matter what someone's gender is or whatever. You can have a good movie be successful. That's all it takes. Just make it a good movie and make it interesting. And Black Panther was at a time when there was a lot of people looking for this kind of thing in culture, of like, hey, let's have a different race, a headline, a film, and it was perfect timing, and it did well, and I'm sure a sequel would do well too, as long as it's well made. But I think it goes beyond the gender or the race or the religious beliefs of whoever the main character is. I think they need a good story, and it wouldn't hurt if it's a Marvel movie to throw in some of the Avengers, get people interested. However, when it comes to writing and directing jobs, underrepresented voices still have a way to go. Well, maybe we could just hire people based on merit. I mean, I have no idea why that's so supposedly such a controversial concept. But like, if you can do a good job, whatever your piece in the puzzle is of producing great work, it shouldn't matter what you look like. The report, which was published today, analyzed 109 movies from 2016 to 2019 and found the movie studios can expect to lose up to $130 million per film when their offerings lack authentic diversity in their storytelling. Researchers found that large budgeted films, a budget of $159 million or more, are subject to a significant cost in opening weekend box office for a lack of diversity. Okay. Which movies would they cite as an example? Because they cited the few that they represented, which they said were diverse, which were not. Black Panther's not diverse, but it doesn't need to be diverse. But it's not. Coco, if it was based with people from Mexico, that's not diverse either. It's mostly just people from Mexico, which is fine. But it would be interesting if they were to list a couple of these movies, maybe really specifically, as to which ones they think are not diverse and as a result didn't make money. Quote, we asked, what is the cost of lacking diversity? Well, first of all, a lot of films are not being made if they, quote, lack diversity, end quote, because movie studios have been taken over now. So, partly there's influence from China, but there's influence from all the social justice warriors, and you barely could make a movie that didn't kowtow to whatever it was they were demanding. Hollywood is a business, and no business wants to leave money on the table, said senior author. this is not how business people talk at all, actually. This is how people talk about business that are not involved in business in any way. But anyway, so the senior author, Yalda T. Oles, a UCLA adjunct assistant professor. Why would an assistant professor of psychology and founder of the executive director for the Center of Scholars, why would they be speaking about leaving money on the table if they're an assistant professor of psychology? That's not their realm. It's not their world. Anyway, while increasing numerical representation behind and in front of the camera is critical, truly empowering people from diverse backgrounds is the key. By giving them an opportunity for executing like meritoriously. But that's me. For example, making sure the writer's room is open to dissenting opinions and a wide net is cast for hiring that is younger, less tenured. Voices are encouraged. In order to compile the data, the researchers used a metric for authentic and diverse. They made up their own numerical standards called the authentically inclusive representation that represents inclusion of diverse voices, people, and cultures both in front and behind the camera, using media diversity reviews. Okay, Mediaversity reviews. Researchers ensured their ratings were comparable to another robust source of diversity ratings that captures numerical race and gender diversity. Can you imagine? We all know that Hollywood has like some formulaic aspects to it, but the formulaic aspects of Hollywood movies have always made them, while sometimes a little bit more financially successful, and we have the lack of creativity of sequels. Now we have numerical quotients for diversity quotas. If sequels were bad because they numerically would prove like, yeah, well, it'll be less creative, but we'll make a sequel because it'll, draw some of the audience from the prior iteration of the movie. Could you imagine what diversity numerical sequels is going to do to the quality and the creativity of these movies? How bad they're going to be? It'll be like living in China. The researchers also compared Mediaversity ratings to the critical acclaim websites Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes and found media diversity ratings are highly correlated with those of Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes. This is just depressing. I mean, honestly, I'm a very optimistic person. But I have to look at this and say, do you really want to destroy all artistic creation, all expression, and allow in this communist restructuring of the creation of art? It's going to destroy art. It destroys creative expression. It means that independent creation is sort of like the last thing you can do. Meritorious work, like work that really describes the human condition, that's relatable, that's passionate, that's visionary, doesn't need these sort of numerical equations. It's just good. Good is just good. In the study, researchers offer recommendations. So thank God, because who would know what to do without these researchers? By the way, and of course their recommendations have zero accountability to them. It won't affect their credibility. They won't lose any money. You just do what they say. So here's what they're telling you to do. Implement explicit norms and guidelines to ensure that all viewpoints... How can you have all viewpoints shared in a story? A story is supposed to be personal so that it's relatable to the person that's watching it. So why would you have multiple... People come from different cultures. I can't understand everyone else's culture unless it's the entertainment. If the entertainment is expressing someone else's culture and it's really well done, then you can see the common human element. But if you come up with diverse points of view for every story, then it's going to become unrelatable, completely unrelatable. I'd love to understand a viewpoint from another culture and learn something from that other culture. That's a lot of the reading that I do, actually, because there are truths throughout humanity, but you're not going to get truths from convoluted viewpoints. You need a singular viewpoint from someone from a specific culture that could tell you something about humanity. Hire diverse casting directors who can bring in original dynamic talent from underrepresented groups. Bring in expertise at the beginning of the development process, not as a band-aid. Bring in expertise, they mean let them come in and social justicely decide how you should execute. You're going to spend $200 million making a movie and have these people with no experience, no actual expertise in actually delivering on stories or in a movie, and have them decide how to do it, and then walk out on the disaster and say, hey, I guess you live in a bad culture. That's why it didn't work. Include counter-stereotypical, multi-dimensional characters. Avoid stereotypes by portraying characters of color with rich identities. Characters of color? How about all the characters with rich identities? The thing is you can't focus on you can't just make anthology movies endlessly. You have to focus on a specific character and a specific story. And then there's a character arc. So there's like life-changing events that happen. You can't focus on all of the characters at the same time. Some of them are going to seem one or two dimensional because someone's got to be the villain, and then you can see a little perspective from the villain, but the story is not going to be the villain's story. It's going to be the hero's story. If there's a writer's room, ensure that all voices, viewpoints, and experiences are heard and welcome. Why? Why? Is this bring a child to work day? So I'll include a link to this article. Maybe Dino Ramos has got some insights for you in terms of your content creation. Make great stories. Tell passionate stories. Make them fun. Make them entertaining. Don't feel burdened that you need to make stories or create characters that represent everyone in every culture and that have everyone's simultaneous point of view. What winds up happening is if you try to have like multiple simultaneous points of view, it becomes ridiculously convoluted. And then you're telling no kind of story at all. All the quality disappears. Everything collapses in on itself. Individualism is not a team sport. People can contribute if they understand the overall idea and show something. But it's absurd, ridiculous tokenism to be checking a box and throwing in characters and different points of view that have nothing to do with the story. Do you want to know about my Jewish upbringing when we're telling the story of Black Panther? No, it makes no sense. It doesn't belong in the story of Black Panther. It doesn't. And vice versa. If we're going to do a film about my upbringing and my family's history, it has nothing to do with Black Panther. It has nothing to do with this kid playing a guitar. Not that his story isn't fantastic, but that's his story. It's not my story. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Do you agree with me, or give me some insight? What's great about YouTube is sometimes I do get insights and comments from people that don't agree with me. So I appreciate it. I appreciate if you do agree with me. Obviously, we come from the same place on that. But maybe there's something I'm missing here. I'm really kind of getting more and more concerned about culture where you've got like the Ray Fisher sub-Me Too type of arguments where it's like, well, aside from evidence of what you're saying, what are you even saying? This is not good business advice. This is stupid, all right, from my point of view, because Dino has no business background whatsoever. He doesn't talk like a business guy, and the study that he's citing doesn't list. They list a few successes, but they're not even diverse. All they are stories about people that are not white people, which is fine. No one objects to that. Tell your story, but don't call it diverse, because then you don't have a mix in there of viewpoints. You have a single viewpoint from someone that's not a white person, which is fine, but you can't call it inclusive. Tell me what you think in the comments below. I'm curious to see what you think about it. You can also support my work at collegeofthedead.com. And you can support my work at epicmermaids.com and sign up for the free email list so we can send you an email when this one gets released. This isn't diverse either. The mermaids are all women. it's a world of female mermaids, as I think mermaids normally would be. Otherwise, they'd be mermen. Is that diverse? Of course it's not diverse. This one's, got gray skin, and the other ones have some different colored skin. They're not diverse. They're all mermaids. So is that inclusive? Of course it isn't. I don't know. Tell me what you think. I'm curious to think what you think in the comments below. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, because that's a great way to support me too. I really appreciate it. I'll see you again soon with another video. Obviously, this video is really throwing me for a loop. But I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.